You stop chasing. You stop reaching out. You stop asking if they're okay. And the silence stretches, days, weeks, maybe longer, and you think they're relieved. You think they got exactly what they wanted, but here's what nobody tells you. In that silence, they're waiting, not for you to come back, for something else, something specific. What are they actually hoping you'll say when you stop chasing them? What words would break through the fortress they've built? What message bypasses their defenses and reaches the part of them they've buried so deep they've almost forgotten it exists? Most people think avoidants want to be left alone. That's only half true. What they actually want, what they secretly hope for in the quiet moments they'd never admit to, is something far more complex. And by the end of this, you'll understand the hidden psychology behind what an avoidant is listening for when the chase ends. You'll understand why the words most people say push them further away. And you'll understand the exact emotional frequency that disrupts their entire system without demanding anything from them. Here's the reframe. When you stop chasing an avoidant, you think you're giving them space, and on the surface, you are. But what's happening underneath is far more intricate. The avoidant isn't experiencing relief from your absence. They're experiencing suspension, a state of waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the anger, for the guilt trip, for the plea that confirms what they've always believed, that connection always comes with conditions. And in that suspension, they're bracing, not consciously, not in a way they'd put into words. But their nervous system is preparing for one of two outcomes. Either you'll come back demanding something from them, confirming their fears about intimacy, or you'll disappear completely, confirming their fears about abandonment. Both outcomes validate the avoidant worldview. Both keep the pattern intact, but there's a third option. One they don't expect, one that doesn't fit the binary. And that option isn't a plea. It isn't anger. It isn't silence. It's something most people never think to offer because they're too hurt to see it. Release without resentment. The avoidant is secretly hoping you'll say, in one form or another, that you understand, that you're not mad, that you don't need them to be different than they are, that you're choosing yourself not as punishment, but as self-preservation, that you see them clearly and you're walking away with compassion, not contempt, because that's the one message their system has no defense against. It doesn't trigger their fear of being trapped. It doesn't trigger their fear of being abandoned. It just exists, clean, complete, final. And that finality, when it comes from a place of understanding rather than reactivity, creates something they can't rationalize away: respect. And respect, for the avoidant, is the gateway to regret. Phase 1. The expectation of conflict. When you first stop chasing, the avoidant expects fallout. They expect you to explode, to send long texts about how they hurt you, to demand answers, to make them feel guilty for needing space. Because that's what usually happens. That's the pattern they've seen play out 100 times before. Externally, they're quiet, not reaching out, not explaining, not defending themselves. They're giving you space to have your reaction so they can confirm, once again, that emotional closeness leads to emotional chaos. But internally, they're on edge, waiting, scanning for the signs that you're about to break the silence with demands, with accusations, with the kind of emotional intensity they've spent their entire life learning to avoid. And that anticipation keeps them in a defensive posture, walls up, guard up, ready to justify their distance the moment you give them a reason to, but then the conflict doesn't come. You don't explode, you don't demand, you don't guilt. And that absence of expected chaos creates a small crack in the defense system. Because the script isn't being followed, the pattern isn't repeating. And when patterns break, attention shifts. Phase 2. The disarming message. This is where most people make one of two mistakes. They either stay completely silent, which the avoidant interprets as indifference or passive aggression, or they send a message dripping with pain, which the avoidant interprets as manipulation or emotional overload. Both responses keep the dynamic intact. Both confirm what the avoidant already believes about connection. But imagine a different message. Simple, clear, non-reactive. Something like, "I understand you need space, and I respect that. I'm choosing to focus on myself right now. I hope you find what you're looking for." No blame, no pressure, no hidden agenda. Just acknowledgement and release. Externally, this message might seem neutral, even cold, but internally, it detonates something in the avoidance system. Because it doesn't fit the framework. It's not chasing. It's not punishing. It's not asking for anything. It's just clean closure from someone who's choosing themselves without needing the avoidant to be the villain or the victim. And that kind of message bypasses the defenses. It doesn't trigger the fear of intimacy because it's not asking for intimacy. It doesn't trigger the fear of abandonment because it's not framed as rejection. It just exists as a statement of fact. You're moving on, not because they're broken, not because you're angry, but because you've outgrown the dynamic. And the avoidant, for the first time, has nothing to defend against. No argument to counter, no guilt to deflect. Just a clean ending they didn't initiate but can't undo. Phase 3. The cognitive recalibration. After receiving that kind of message, the avoidant enters a period of recalibration. They read it once, maybe twice. They analyze the tone. They look for subtext. They search for the hidden anger or the veiled plea. And when they can't find it, when the message is exactly what it appears to be, something shifts. Externally, they might not respond at all. They might go completely silent for weeks. They might seem like they've moved on without a second thought. But internally, the message is working on them, not immediately, but gradually. Because it introduced something their system wasn't prepared for, dignity in departure. You didn't beg. You didn't attack. You didn't make them responsible for your pain. You just acknowledged reality and chose yourself. And that choice, that refusal to engage in the push-pull dynamic, creates a form of respect they rarely feel for the people they've pushed away. Because most people leave angry, most people leave hurt. But you left whole. And wholeness is magnetic to the avoidant. Not in a way that makes them chase, but in a way that makes them remember. In a way that makes every person who comes after you pale in comparison. Because you're the one who saw them clearly and walked away without needing them to be different. You're the one who didn't make their avoidance about you. Phase 4. The delayed realization. Weeks pass, maybe months. And the avoidant realizes something they didn't expect. They're thinking about you. Not obsessively, not desperately, but consistently. You show up in their mind at random moments when they're alone. When they're with someone who doesn't understand them the way you did. When they realize that the person they're with now is easier but emptier. And what they're thinking about isn't the relationship. It's the way you left, with grace, with clarity, with self-respect intact. They're realizing, slowly and painfully, that they didn't lose someone who needed them. They lost someone who chose them, and there's a difference. Externally, this might show up as breadcrumbing, a vague text, a social media interaction, a moment where they almost reach out fully but stop themselves. They're testing to see if the door is still open, if the dignity you showed was real, or if it was just a temporary performance. But internally, they're grappling with a truth they've avoided their entire life, that the problem wasn't the people who wanted too much from them. The problem was that they couldn't meet people where they were. And you were the clearest mirror of that truth, because you didn't want too much. You just wanted consistency, and they couldn't give it. And you left because of that, not in anger, in acceptance. And that acceptance is what haunts them. Here's what most people do when they stop chasing an avoidant. They make it about the avoidant. They send messages designed to make the avoidant feel guilty, to make them realize what they lost, to trigger a response. And those messages, no matter how justified, keep the focus exactly where the avoidant wants it, on the conflict, on the drama, on the evidence that emotional closeness is exhausting. But what actually creates power is this: you make it about you. You send a message, if you send one at all, that's clean, that's clear. That's focused entirely on your own path forward, not to punish them, not to manipulate them, but because you've genuinely moved into a different emotional space. A space where their avoidance isn't your problem to solve anymore. And when you operate from that space, the message you send, or the silence you maintain, carries a completely different frequency. It's not reactive, it's resolved. And resolution is the one thing the avoidant can't argue with. Principle 1. Strip the message of subtext. If you choose to say anything when you stop chasing, make it direct. No passive aggression. No hidden pain. No veiled attempts to make them feel guilty or to provoke a response. Just clear, honest communication about where you are and what you're choosing. The cleaner the message, the less they can dismiss it. Principle 2. Focus the message on your choice, not their failure. The moment you frame the message around what they did wrong or what they couldn't give, you give them something to defend against. But when you frame it around your own decision to prioritize yourself, there's nothing to argue with. You're not attacking them. You're just choosing you, and that choice is inarguable. Principle 3. Don't wait for a response. If you send a closing message, send it and move on. Don't check to see if they read it. Don't wait for them to reply. Don't give them the power to keep you in limbo with their silence. The message isn't about opening a dialogue. It's about closing a chapter. And once it's closed, you're done. Principle 4. Understand that silence can also be the message. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. When you stop chasing and you don't explain, you don't justify, you don't seek closure, you create a different kind of disruption. You show them that you've moved on so completely that they're no longer worth an explanation. And for the avoidant, that absence of engagement is often more impactful than any words could be. Principle 5. Protect your dignity above all else. Whether you send a message or stay silent, the goal is the same. Preserve your self-respect. Don't chase closure from them. Don't beg for understanding. Don't try to make them see your value. You already know your value. And anyone who can't see it doesn't get access to it anymore. This isn't about them. It's about you. It's about understanding that the words they secretly hope to hear aren't magic. They won't fix the dynamic. They won't make the avoidant suddenly capable of intimacy, but they will do something else. They'll plant a seed of respect that grows long after you're gone. You don't send messages to change them. You send messages, or you stay silent, to honor yourself. You don't wait for their realization. You move into your own. You don't need their regret. You need your own peace. You don't chase to prove your worth. You stop chasing to reclaim it. You don't say what they want to hear. You say what you need to say, or you say nothing at all. Because your silence isn't punishment. It's protection. And the person who can do that, who can walk away with grace instead of rage, with acceptance instead of resentment, isn't playing games. They're living in a different paradigm entirely, one where their value isn't negotiable, where their peace isn't conditional, where their future isn't tethered to someone else's capacity to show up. The avoidant might hope you'll understand. They might hope you'll release them without making them the villain. They might hope you'll walk away with your dignity intact so they can remember you as the one who got away instead of the one they escaped from, and you can give them that, not for them. For you, because the woman who leaves whole is the woman who haunts them forever. Not because she tried to, but because she didn't have to. So here's the question. What if the most powerful message you could send isn't designed to make them feel anything? What if it's simply the truth that you've already moved on? Because what avoidants secretly hope you'll say when you stop chasing isn't "come back" or "I miss you" or "I'm hurting." It's "I'm fine without you." And the tragedy for them is that by the time you can say that and mean it, you no longer need to say it at all. You're already gone. And that's the message they'll hear the loudest.